Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week, we take a guided tour of one of the largest buildings coming to the persistent universe to date. Plus, it is the final push for Alpha 318 in the PTU, with a live release set for next week. Now, before we begin, just a quick update on Alpha 318 and how this patch rollout is coming along. CIG have been releasing new patches pretty much daily over the course of last week, with them stating on Wednesday the 1st of March, and I quote here, "Over the weekend we are planning to run some critical stress tests on the PTU starting on Friday. This will greatly assist with gathering crucial data that will help us tackle any final remaining stability issues before live release, which we are hoping to achieve next week." End quote. Now, they have scheduled 5 stress tests, with 2 more remaining at the time of recording this, and if all goes well, we are looking at a live release finally this next week. We don't know if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, could equally be Friday or the weekend, and of course unforeseen issues can still appear and hold the release up further, but here is hoping that this is the final push now, and they can finally get 318 out. It has been a pretty long slog, but personally speaking, with this 318 patch bringing this imperative core tech that Star Citizen needs to finally become the game that we all want it to be, I am glad that they have taken the necessary time to get it worked out. My fingers are firmly crossed that all goes well this weekend, and that we can finally get on with playing 318 on the live servers for the foreseeable. So this week's Inside Star Citizen was a pretty great episode, taking a guided tour of one of the new underground facilities, which is currently midway through the white box phase, which allows them to lock down where they are at and where they want to go moving forwards. The spaces are now playable, and these locations will hold missions like deliveries, assassination, VIP protection, heists maybe, mining and resource collection, basically anything that is already present in the persistent universe, and any future updates can use these locations for points of interest. So starting off in a Pisces, flying over the surface of Pyro 3, he flies around the underground facility structure, which is pretty huge, and you will notice a couple of times in the distance there is another structure, a second structure over there. And looking from top down of this UGF, you can see there are multiple hangars, there are landing pads, plus it appears to have many gun and missile turrets as well, which I'm sure operating in Pyro, well anywhere really, they will need the protection. Now, I do believe it was also mentioned at CitizenCon that these places will have various entrances, either on the surface, under the surface, from the top, so on and so forth. And he did mention that they are thinking about how this location would function, I suppose to give an actual purpose in the verse. And I would not be surprised if they use some of these locations as factory nodes, requesting resources to manufacture products, and then those products need to be distributed around the verse for sale. So providing missions for resource gatherers like miners, salvagers, and haulers for distributing all their various goods. Now, he enters the underground facility through an airlock, which will be applicable for zero-atmospheric planets, maybe not somewhere like Pyro 3, but upon entering, you are greeted with kind of a corporate lobby environment, which, as you will see as he descends deeper into the facility, the style changes as you go from this corporate lobby to the workers area, and then that transitions from being a very clean, bright, welcoming open space for the visitors to an industrial, utilitarian environment. But also do note the great views in this lobby from all of the windows. Now, he also mentions that the first time you visit a location like this, the chances are you will have 0 reputation, so you will have to enter via the visitors area first to check in, which could mean that as you build up reputation with a location or a company, you might be able to get access to the facility from maybe a worker's entrance perhaps, which would be very cool if you had, say, an assassination job. You could work your reputation up to get deeper access so that you could get closer to your target, rather than just going in guns blazing or trying to stealth in. You might want to play the long game if the rewards are worth it, and just gain more and more access. Anyway, heading through the back, there will be offices located, with the whole facility being a living, breathing location, and he does say throughout the tour that there will be many alternate routes that you could take to get to where you want to go, be that via underfloor vents, roof vents, gangways, allowing you to stealth your way in if you so desire. Now, heading down the elevator, you come to a pedestrianised area, which is where the main facility's cargo elevator is. He also said this does have access to the outside, so there is another potential entrance there. but this is where you would go to get deeper into the facility. On this level, there is a commercial cargo office, which is where players will go to get missions from. So I suppose once you go through the lobby, they will send you down to this kind of cargo office where you could get a mission, you could buy items, so on and so forth. So moving further in, you have areas where workers will be moving cargo around. You can see this huge elevator observation tower, and then my favourite bit is where he takes the pedestrian elevator deeper down into the facility. Although he does say that the depth of each of these facilities is procedurally generated, like the layout and rooms, so do expect quite a bit of variation to all of these locations. And on that note, I will say, the way that they build places like this and space stations, they use a modular procedural tool that takes the various assets that artists have created and generates different layouts and visual overlays. So this is only one type of underground facility at one size. Do expect many more types of different sizes, styles, designs, architecture, and so on, just to suit all manner of uses and companies, from corporate to gangs to derelicts to abandoned. This is just the first, which the developer did say right now there are about 17 rooms with 2 different overlays. So my guess would be this style and then maybe a derelict version of this, just to give that contrast. Now you can see the cargo elevator moving automatically, which could take you down, but you don't have control over it. And in this space, you will see the elevator being loaded and unloaded. He also mentioned that as they continue to release more content for locations like this, you will see more rooms and wings getting added, and this will just expand as and when needed. Now further through, you come to a security checkpoint. Here you will need to have the right credentials or permissions to get through, which if you don't, you could steal a worker's badge and uniform and hope that your disguise works, or you could just sneak through, say, the underfloor passageways and kind of play the guards. Very Metal Gear Solid-like. Now the next room is much deeper into the caverns underground, potentially where they are still gathering resources or mining away. And as you can see here, there is a series of smaller tunnels, which he didn't take us down, he kind of kept that a little secret, but I do bet in some circumstances these may lead to potential underground access points, maybe via a cave, that take you to the exterior, providing multiple choices in how you get access to the various points of the facility. Also, do expect to see many more rooms and control points to aid in your traversing around the UGF, or even hinder those chasing you if you are going guns blazing. But the final room we got to see is more of a warehouse, where there are these huge cranes. You can also see even further access below with these holes in the ground, and many cargo containers. He did say you will be able to use the cranes, maybe steal a container, maybe steal the cargo from inside the container, and like he said earlier, a mission could be a heist, maybe to steal one or multiple of these cargo containers, and planning how you would go about doing this will be even deeper than GTA 5's bank heists. Getting a member of your team perhaps to build up reputation and get inside, checking out the security patrols, maybe some blind spots, gathering up some uniforms to give to the other members so that you could pull off the heist, or even just simply locating which container it is you need to take. The potential for these locations are just endless, and seeing the possible gameplay that can come from it is quite mind-blowing. These locations are so unhindered and open to player choice and imagination that any mission that you take, which brings you to one of these facilities, will just give you full freedom to determine how you go about completing it. Not to mention, this is just the first underground facility we have seen. As mentioned earlier, like with anything CIG create, there will be many more of varying styles, sizes, purposes, and roles, and my god, it is going to be very exciting visiting one of these locations for the first time, even if it's just a simple delivery mission, and starting to build up that reputation. That, personally, was one of my favourite of Inside Star Citizen, allowing my imagination to run wild. But with that said, let us move on to Star Citizen Live. So this week's Star Citizen Live kicked off chatting with members of the visual effects team. Currently, there are 21 members of this team, handling all the visual effects for both the PU and Squadron 42, and the Cortec visual effects as well, and they did say it's about 50-50. You've got half of the VFX team working on the Persistent Universe, and the other half on Squadron. Now this team handles things like smoke, explosions, thruster effects, weapons, and they did talk about this new tool called the Overdraw Visualizer, which allows them to see in a heat map style where they are using too many particles in a scene and where they could dial it back to maintain performance. So it basically saves a lot of time and keeps each scene within the visual effects budget. So one of the questions that were asked was, what's the difference in working on a single player game like Squadron for visual effects versus the Persistent Universe's multiplayer experience? And he says that Squadron has much more control with visual effects, as they know generally with each cinematic scene where the camera is focused on, so they can look at each frame specifically and make it look the best it can be. Whereas for the Persistent Universe, it is far more free and they have to have every angle covered. So they try to find clever ways to ensure that the performance budget is handled well while keeping things looking as good as possible. Now, currently the visual effects team are working on quantum travel improvements and effects, weapon stuff, Squadron 42 stuff like destruction, locations, Lorville skyline, the Misc Hull C, GPU conversions, the fire hazard visuals, particle tools for organizing, and he also did say the Misc Fury. Now, we have no idea what this is. It could be a new ship coming along, it could just be a code name for a new ship. At this point, we have no official information other than this accidental name drop, which could have been even just saying something random. So I'm not going to delve too deep into speculating here. And it was Fury, not Furry, before you start getting excited. Always a nice chilled out conversation with devs for Star Citizen Live. And God knows what this Misc Fury is. It could be one of the ships in concept, it could be in development, we just don't know. But it wasn't picked up on other than, I think, one of the mods in chat who kept deleting posts that and questions people were asking about it. So clearly something was said that shouldn't have been said, and I guess it's a matter of time before we find out. Now, for the second half of Star Citizen Live, this was a chat with a chap called Don Schimmel, who is the executive producer for CIG, and he has ran the narrative team. He produced the motion capture shoot for Squadron 42. He was also the global video producer, and now he is producing the PCAP and mocap shoots and building out the mocap studio in the Manchester offices called Stage 6. So he's a very busy guy. Now, as always with the second half of Star Citizen Live, it was just a casual chat with this person, nothing new about the project itself, so if you would like to learn more about who Don Schimmel is, I have provided the link below for you to watch. Next week's Inside Star Citizen is another Journey to 4.0 design brief, similar to what we saw with the investigation mission stuff, where they talk about the preliminary work that goes into putting across an idea for a game mechanic, and Jared said it is a new early look into a new type of gameplay system that is being developed for Star Citizen. Now, I don't know if this is an old intended gameplay system that is now newly becoming developed, or whether it is a brand new system or gameplay system that wasn't even intended in the first place. I don't know, but it does sound very interesting, and I'm excited to watch that next Thursday. So also this week, the Galactopedia received its latest update, checking out the Tyrannus system and learning more about the various fauna of the verse, plus both the Persistent Universe and Squadron 42 monthly reports released, the latter of which I have already covered in its own video, which I will link in the description below. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are provided below.